Breezes can now be easily used in Redstone, armadillos became stronger, and some cool world optimizations. Hello there, Ray here, and today we're going to take a look at those as well as much more in today's new update for the 1.20.5 as well as the 1.21 future updates. Now, something I tested early on was how Breeze would interact when they get attacked by something other than the player. Well, it turns out they would actually completely ignore whatever is attacking them, which I was disappointed because I hoped the Breeze would turn around and attack them, so that we could automatically get the Breezes wind charges without having to use a player. Well, they actually changed that today. So now Breezes will actually retaliate against Iron Golems even before they attack, but the only other thing that the Breeze will attack is the player. This is actually great news because now I can actually use the Breeze where I want to use it, where it would have the Breeze as a item collection system. Since every time it charges hit something, it can push it around, including items. I was actually trying to make it hit the player here, and then when it would hit the player, I would hope it would actually hit above and would move the items within inside of my raid farm, so they get pushed to the edges so I could collect them using a simpler method rather than using piston. This is actually our stacked raid farm, and we made this way back when raids were being introduced. And I've just been updating this with the other little tricks I've been showing you guys throughout the snapshots, like the Ravagers having a shorter reach, so I'm automatically killing them with the player. If you want to see the crazy long process it takes me to design such farms like this, that end up being really simple to build up, but they actually take me hours and hours and hours to come up with such a simple and clean design, make sure to join my live streams as I do all this live so you can see the exact thought process it takes to actually complete such mega projects. So I guess you can use Iron Golems to help you try to defeat a trial spawner. If they could ever get close enough to hit the Breeze, they could definitely kill them if they wanted to. Breezes will also not accidentally attack other things which are inside of the trial chambers, such as like skeletons, straids, zombies, husks, spiders, cave spiders, and slime. And those mobs won't turn around and attack the Breeze if they accidentally get hurt by the charges that it's shooting out. They also made some changes to armadillos. Now they will roll up a ball if they have been recently attacked rather than just sitting there taking the damage. Also, while they're in a ball, they'll take reduced damage similar to like a shulker, and while the shulker is closed. And they can even resist really weak attacks, so they can do no damage at all. Before, when crafting up grades, it would cost you 4 copper blocks to make 4 copper grades. But now when using the stone cutter, you can actually get 4 grades just by using 1 copper block, making it much cheaper, as a lot of people did not like the expensive recipes of many of the new copper items, but at least the grades are cheaper. Make sure you're still subscribed so you can continue to learn about the newest changes in the game and how they're going to affect you. For dedicated server, there is now a faster region file compression option. You can find this in the configuration property called region file compression. You can either choose the old method or the new method, which is LZ4, which requires less CPU time but uses more disk space. And new and updated chunks will use the newly configured algorithm, but old ones will stay with the old format. They also made some world optimization changes. This is both for single player and dedicated servers. So they'll use force upgrade to actually upgrade when it comes to entities and point of interest. And they have a new recreate region files, which helps with the dedicated servers when it comes to how they handle region files. You can access the debug screen for TPS on servers by pressing F3+2 for single player, and they went ahead and did a bunch of changes to the debug TPS charts. So you can see now there's like a red and a green. The dark section of this chart here displays the time spent during the main logic of the server tick, and is equivalent to what the old chart used to show you. And then above the red is the brown areas, and this is the time used to run the scheduled task. When I'm generating new chunks, we get a lot of activity going on. Now the purple section represents the time for executing all other code during the tick. Then the light green, yellow, and red at the very top section displays the time spent idling or waiting for the next tick. So when I stop, you can see it's going to be mostly green as the game is able to catch up and have less things to do. And then of course the numbers at the top of the chart, we have the minimum amount of ticks it's taking, the average, as well as the maximum amount of ticks. These are in milliseconds. So 1,000 milliseconds would equal 1 second. So with all this extra information, it makes it easier to tell what exactly it's struggling in loading. They also did some more optimization to the worlds, including reducing the time it takes for explorer maps, which are often found here inside of shipwrecks, to generate when there is buried treasure. Notice how quickly I can open the chest and immediately shows it, and then immediately shows me where it's at, rather than having like a couple seconds of latency. This is really nice. The data pack also got updated to version 29, and we got a new command which is called transfer. This transfer command can only be accessed on servers. By the way, I do have a testing server which is open to my viewers. You guys can learn more about it by joining my Discord. And with this new transfer command, you can actually transfer players to another server. So this would be the host name of the server. This is typically a bunch of numbers with dots and other numbers, or it can be simplified to some words. And then the port is usually some numbers which says where exactly on that server to send the player. And then of course you can choose which player you want, or you can even send like everybody. This will make it nicer so that servers won't get bogged down with so many players all in one spot, especially for like minigame servers. When coming in and turning on cheats by opening up Land World, it's no longer called allow cheats on, but now allow commands on. This is better wording, as people would think this would just enable like all cheats, but just allows you to access commands, which you can do even if you set it to survival. This makes a bit more sense because cheating depends on how you decide to play in the first place. Last week, they also came out with a second snapshot. This is the B snapshot. They normally only put out another snapshot within a week if there is some crashes, which there was. The crash would occur if you try to configure the Realm server. But besides fixing just the crash, they also fixed some other bugs. Now, during my testing to do with trial spawners, we noticed that when it came to the mobs that spawn out of them, a lot of them would have persistence required, meaning that they wouldn't be able to despawn even if the player would leave the area. This is done on purpose, so one player could come in and activate the trial spawners, they could leave, another team could come in and those mobs are still there ready to fight them. Or just to prevent the player from completely leaving the area to automatically win the trial and get the rewards without actually having to kill the mobs. But some of these mobs do not have this persistence required tag. So now that they do have it, you can actually get some uniquely rare mobs that won't despawn, like having skeletons with jack-o'-lantern Halloween heads, or zombies having some chicken jockeys. You get some really cool rare mobs. Now if you want to learn about all the different types of rare and discontinued mobs you can acquire in your world, I have an entire playlist here which you guys can check out after this video. Normally it's not possible to make a copy of a copy. This is because they don't want players to have like a non-original book and be able to use it to get more copies. But for some reason the crafter would ignore this rule and actually make copies of books even though it shouldn't, so they stopped this. In some cases, when opening up a chest and then falling far enough away that the GUI would automatically close, what would happen is that the chest would then just ignore the player and it wouldn't actually show the opening and closing or the redstone activation of it anymore. And Mimikyu's hitbox was way too large, so they shrunk them back down to the way they're supposed to be. Items dropped on top of Soul Sand were all of a sudden rendering black now. So they fix it so they won't think that they're inside of the block, but instead actually on top of it, so they render with all the color. We also got some interesting bug fixes for today's snapshot, 04A. Now breeze are supposed to be able to reflect any arrow shot at them, but what happens if you shoot them with a crossbow that has piercing on it? Well, what would actually happen is it could crash the game. This probably had to do with the breeze is trying to reflect the arrow, but then getting confused at how it's going to reflect not only the first arrow that passes through it, but all the other arrows that try to pass completely through it to hit the next mob beyond them. So of course this was resolved. They also resolved the issue if you would turn off your spawn chunks by setting them to a radius of 0, when mobs would actually go through, they would sometimes end up in the air and then fall downwards because the game cannot actually get the information related to spawn chunks because they were unloaded, such as like what is the highest point to actually put the mob on top of, and would end up doing some weird stuff. So now I should load the side so it can get the correct information to put the mobs in the correct location. Since 1.17 there was this problem when you would place something into a flower pot, then you would retrieve it with your empty hand, it would put it directly into your empty hand rather than automatically stacking it with the pre-existent stack. And when it comes to everything else, they always automatically stack with anything else that's already in your inventory. So they went ahead and changed it so that it would also stack instead of having individual items. In case you have to remove a whole bunch of items from like a flower pot, you don't have to constantly restack all the items before pulling out another one. They also stopped this weird behavior, which is if you would hold something in your main hand and then try to pull something out of the flower pot. So if I right click, the item gets put into my offhand, which had nothing in there to start with. Kind of cool that you can actually put something in your offhand while being AFK in a way, but they decided to fix this and also make the item automatically stack with all the rest of the items when pulling out of flower pots. Now these new trial spawners do have a lot of information, and you can actually change this to make a custom trial spawner. The only problem was that the trial spawner was ignoring all your customizations, but now we'll respect them with this newest change, which was actually reported by Tiz Awesome, one of the people that helps me look into the Java code and answer different questions. If you're someone that can read Java code, Message me on Discord, as I always have questions about what's going on in the code, and you could get shout out in a future video. When loading up a world, it shows which percentage the world is to being completely loaded, but notice that this little square actually grows as the world's getting loaded, and the square would actually grow so big, it would cover up and make it difficult to actually read this percentage. So now they moved this above so you can easily read it. They also added it so you can now use like arrow keys to navigate throughout the realms menu. Now see all the cool rare and discontinued mobs you can obtain in your very own Minecraft world, or come watch me put a breeze inside of my raid farm, which is going to be quite a challenge over at my Twitch livestream. And if you have Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, make sure to use your free Twitch sub each and every month. You do have to do it manually, but it's a great way to support me, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. And it comes with perks like getting your name at the end of my video. Thank you all for watching, I'll see you guys over there, bye bye!